You are using the computer audio. ¿Qué? ¿Y ahora qué, Puki? ¿Audio?
¿Qué dice? Ahí está. Audio.
Mm,
Ya está, ahí está. ¿No vas a poner el mute?
mute. Sí.
Pero necesito poner aquí el audio, pero no me sale. Ese es el tuyo, no. No escucha.
was thinking, why am I?
Hi, everyone. Sue just texted me to let me know she's having technical difficulties. So I'm going to go ahead and just write down everybody who is here while we're waiting for her. So I'll just go by project. Is anyone here from Alliance? How about Crete?
Cheryl's here.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hello.
ESU1. I see Vanessa.
It's Vanessa, Susana, Mirna, and Sandra.
Susana, Anna, and Sandra. Okay, hi ESU1. 7,
Just you and me.
just you and me. How about 13?
Jamie's here.
Teresa's here.
Jamie and Teresa. Okay, 15.
Yes, Jamie's here.
Hi, Jamie. Fremont. Oops, Cynthia's here. Grand Island. Okay. Head Start.
Hola. Lili and Aida.
Lily and Aida. Okay. Lexington.
Marnie's here.
Hi, Marnie. Okay, Lincoln. Madison.
Danielle,
Uh-huh.
Holly, Claudia, and Norma are in Hastings too. I put it on
Claudia, and who else did you say?
Holly, Claudia, and Norma.
Holly, Claudia, and Norma. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. We had Lincoln and Madison and Omaha.
Hi, we have Suzanne and Veronica.
Hi, Suzanne and Veronica. Okay. Well, hopefully Sue gets connected soon. I know she's without Benjamin right now, so she has some people helping her at NDE get connected. Oh, there she is.
All those names are familiar. Jacob, thank you.
Yep.
Sorry, folks. It was too good to be true to get connected twice in one day, but I am here. Hope everybody's having a good day.
We are all here and accounted for, Sue.
Okay. Checking for my, there we go. All right. Okay, I'll take a deep breath and get started. Well, today, or this afternoon, the webinar will be in regards to the out-of-school youth, and we will be reviewing the 17-18 data. Then also for the projects, after we review the OSY data, I would really appreciate if you provide some different strategies that you use in serving the OSY. And I'd like to thank Danielle for her work on providing these slides. As you well know, when the recruiter submits a COE, a certificate of eligibility for an OSY, they also complete the OSY profile. And so that information is from the profiles. So when we take a look at our data, our child count data, sorry folks, I wish I could, let me see if I can move this, see if I can get it out of your way. There we go. So as we look on a statewide basis, if we take a look at our child count or our student and out-of-school youth population, we've broke it down to the different groups. And today's topic being OSY, that the out-of-school youth are 6% of the total of our student population. It doesn't surprise me that this particular group usually stays about the same, or I should say in the same range of the number of students. The 3 to 5, it seems to fluctuate there for a couple years. They were the largest group, age students of our 5,000 eligible migrant students. And we've stayed in that range also, the child count for the last 5 years, around 5,000. Danielle hasn't finalized the data yet, so we don't know what that magic number is, but I know it is, again, close to that 5,000 child count. Doesn't surprise me either that when we look at grades K through 8, that's 50% or 54% of the population, and our secondary of 9 through 12 is at 18%. To look at it per project, this shows the OSY count. And again, with our regional projects, they have double digits, all of them, as well as some of the district projects as well. This also is a combination of seasonal workers, so it could be H-2A workers or families moving from other states to work in Nebraska. Well, I was going to say in the summer, but really all year round. Could be working in a dairy processing plant or planting or harvesting crops across the state. Breaking it down by gender, 67% are male OSY and 33% are female OSY. And then again, we've broke it down by the different age groups. "20 years of age for our OSY seems to be the largest group. And here it shows how long our OSY they intend to be in the state of Nebraska. And we've got OSY that are here for short term from 1 to 2 weeks. And I would have thought that that particular group would have been larger with our H-2A workers. But the data shows us differently. Now, often too, when I first looked at the data, I looked at 2 years indefinitely, long-term, unsure. You know, I tried to relate that to temporary employment, but you really can't do that. So on those profiles, the recruiter in visiting with the OSY, you know, they're determining, we know that they're here to, and they meet the eligibility criteria for that particular move, but they may stay in that area longer once that job is completed. So here we look at the education levels of the OSY. And even though it's not registered on here, I do know that we had a recruiter in the southwestern part of the state that had interviewed some OSY, and amazingly enough that this young adult had never been enrolled in school. It's been years ago, but when I was working at the local project, we had a mother that had never enrolled in school and worked with her quite a bit. She would come to the facility, and she was in English classes through the adult basic ed program. And that's hard to fathom when we've had the opportunity and have public schools available to us. So the fact that no one or someone hasn't ever enrolled in school is rather interesting to me. And we still have that group too, a certain percentage of them. And here's some reasons that they left for school, yes, they left school and needing to work. Many of them get far enough behind, lack credits, that it just seems impossible to be able to graduate. This particular year, there seems to be more OSY that are pregnant and don't have childcare, moved. Let's see, sick family members, they're too far from the school. It's too difficult and it's too challenging. They failed the tests, and some of those could be even from another state. Doesn't mean that those things happened here, although they could. But as you well know, in some of the other states, there's the state test, and if they fail that test, they do not advance to the next grade. Anybody have any comments in regards to this data? I also found it interesting that bullying was a reason that one or more of our OSY left school. On that OSY profile, it provides a lot of information to review and use as part of your local CNA to determine the needs of your OSY within your project, and determine what those services are that you can provide to the OSY. Here's the home language of our languages of our OSY, and as we know, being a refugee resettlement state, but also just through the migration, that we have OSY from various different languages. Sorry. So here we have in regards to the supplemental services that were provided during the 17-18 year to OSY residing in Nebraska. And so 62% of the OSY were served. Looking at those services, we know that 12% received instructional services and 62% received support services. If we take a look at that in numbers, if I'm not mistaken, that we have for the count in 17-18, there were 318 OSY, eligible OSY, and out of 318, I believe it's 67 or 69 that received instructional services.
So Teresa is asking if we can have this PowerPoint emailed after the training to
We sure
study it.
Yes, we sure can. So if we take a look at some supplemental services, English as a second language, and I know that there are materials through out of school or through the OSY consortium that I know that many of you use with the out of school youth. I'll be interested in hearing from those that are willing to share what some of the other types of services that you are providing or how you're providing it. I think we're all very aware that our out of school youth is probably the most challenging group, not probably, I know it is, the challenging group, first of all, to identify and recruit, and secondly, to serve. And then in regards to the support services, everything from different materials, referring them to other agencies, nutrition. I'd be interested in just having some conversation about that. We also know that often they may come late in the evening, could be Friday night or over the weekend. They haven't eaten for quite some time, and some of you will provide them food until they can access other agencies during the work week. Of course, in interpretation, clothing, there's some health issues. There seemed to be quite a bit of that this particular past summer. Life skills. Curious to know if you use, there's some life skills available through the Portable Assisted Study Sequence, also through OSY, or be interested in you sharing if there's other curriculum or other resources that you use for the life skill lessons. Tutoring, some of them are accessing their GED or attempting to, and so tutoring is provided through the migrant program. Youth leadership, family literacy program. I'm aware of Omaha, off the top of my head, that provides family literacy, and Crete you may also, I'm not sure if that's for the OSY. I know you do provide family literacy, but not sure about the OSY. But it's through that, in looking at the data, there's been a couple things. In September, we, well, first of all, we are a member state of the OSY, the Out of School Youth Consortium. And as anything else, we always have to report on the state level as to what type of services were provided to the OSY, what type of materials through Out of School Youth that were developed through the consortium. Which one of those have been used in the state, and then often they have materials to be piloted, and this is one of those areas that I feel like there's a lot more services being provided, but maybe we're not reporting them, or we're not capturing through the different surveys for the consortium. So I'll try and be better at that, at making sure we have what we need and are required as a member state for OSY. In addition to, as I mentioned, the what are some different, another thing to think about, or what are some things that we can do differently? So when I go back and look at those numbers, there were several projects that have very high numbers of OSY, and we can also maybe take a look at the needs of that population, and how can we, during the 18-19 year, how can we better serve them? One of the things I think about too is in the regions, in the large area that the recruiters are covering, to know that do we have enough recruitment at those time periods needed for the OSY? Does there need to be an increase in recruiters during specific times in order to serve higher numbers of OSY? Do we need, in different areas of the state, do we need service providers, OSY service providers? Just trying to, take a look at some different things in regards to, what the needs are and how we can increase the services to our out-of-school youth population. First of all, taking a look at the services, would anybody be willing to share what types of services you provide for the OSY? And if you could give us a short review of whether it's for temporary workers that's here a little longer, or is it seasonal workers that are here very short term, meaning maybe a few weeks to a couple of months at max.
Aquí. Es que, dale. ¿Lo escucho? ¿Cómo le hago?
Hi, Sue.
Hi, Lilia. Hi, Aida.
Hi, Sue.
Hello.
Okay, we want to share with you girls how we help them OSY. We refer to the community agencies like a CCC, like in Hastings, Harlan, South Harlan District, and also in Catholic Social Services, Salvation Army, what else? Food Pantry, what else?
We provide hygiene kits.
Hygiene kits, in McCook.
We refer them to dentists.
Oh, we refer to dentists and what else? No, I forgot.
Oh, to Proteus.
Oh, Proteus.
And
what else?
And the ones that qualify, that they share with us, that they come with legal
legal
documentation, we refer them to the food stamp program.
Great, thank you very much for sharing. Those are really good community resources and good partners in helping serve the out-of-school youth. Anybody else? Can anybody share in regards to providing your instruction, what type of instructional materials you use in serving the OSY?
Hi, this is Veronica from Omaha.
Hi, Veronica.
So I have a lot of out-of-school youth that could be categorized as SIFE, like with significant gaps in their education. So what I am doing with them is we do the life skill lessons, but we'll pull in, for example, the life skill lesson on filling out a form. We pull in a lot of literacy skills along with that. So, they're learning how to write their name and address rather than just learning the information, as they're also doing the literacy side of it. So I've kind of developed some lessons springboarding off of the life lessons that also involve some reading and writing and speaking that tie in with the life skill lessons that are on the GoSOSI website.
Thanks, Veronica. Are those services provided, are they provided on-site or home-based? Oh,
those are mostly on a home-based.
Okay. Are those services provided on a weekly basis, Or,
Yes, usually once a week.
okay,
And usually we're there for about an hour to an hour and a half to tutor the student.
great. Thank you.
So we have a chat question asking to elaborate on what a non-project area is. If you can talk about that.
You bet. In the central part of the state, we have significant numbers of migrant students. And as an example of that would be in Broken Bow, Ord. There's other little towns in that particular area. And then also some of the small towns south. So Broken Bow and Ord are north of Interstate 80. And then there's some other communities that are south of Interstate 80 in kind of that same area. It's that central region. So we brought on staff, some service providers to meet the needs of the migrant students in those communities. Now, those numbers continue to increase in that particular area. We've seen a lot of changes, as you know, that I sent out an email not too long ago to have recruiters participate in a mass recruitment because numbers in between North Platte, Lexington, and somewhat Kearney has increased quite a bit as well. And Cozad, we've seen some really high numbers. And if I'm not mistaken, if I remember through my phone call with Jamie and Danielle Cole, that those numbers out in North Platte, that there's, I don't know, somewhere around 30 plus referrals from the school of potential eligible children. And, you know, before they used to get a few families here and there, but I attribute some of that too in regards to the relationship that they've built and the partnership between North Platte Public Schools and the ESU 13 project. So their system has strengthened, and so end result is more referrals. Then, as I mentioned in the email that went to the directors and to the recruiters, is in the Cozad area. So in little town of Cozad, to have, I forget what it is now, 30 or 40 referrals of potential families. And then I think it was as high as 80 at one point in Lexington. I don't have those figures in front of me. But as I also mentioned in the email, that is just too much for one recruiter to handle. So appreciate those recruiters that have stepped up and have committed to help out in recruitment in those particular areas the last week in November.
So can I ask real quick, is that then also including along Highway 2 and south of Highway 2 in that really rural area? Between Ogallala and North Platte?
Not in regards to the non-project area?
Yeah, I was just trying to, I'm sorry, this is Teresa. I was just trying to understand, you had said in that rural type area there, and so I was trying to figure out how far it came, if it came up north at all or not, or if that's...
As far as Ogallala and that area, that's designated to ESU 13. But right now, Danielle, I don't know if you can help me out with some of the Broken Bow, Ord, Little Town of Taylor. Lillian, you might be able to help me out too. That non-project area.
Oh, yeah.
Now through ESU 15 is where those non-project service providers, they're through ESU 15. And
Oh, hi, Sue.
And we've wanted to make some changes in that area, but it's very challenging. And as you know, Teresa, in those rural areas, there's not many people. So, you know, we just don't get applicants like we would in a more populated community. The other part we're experiencing too is that those families that are settling in that area, they're not English speaking. I mean, they speak other languages they speak languages other than English or Spanish. So the next step is trying to hire people that are native speakers to meet the needs of our migrant families.
Hi, Sue.
Hi, Lilia.
May I say something? Because I think that people is confused with the non-project. So I just want to clarify that the non-project is covered by Aida and myself. And Aida mainly covers Head Start. And now the Carnisa project, well, that will be me. And the non-project is what you just mentioned. The little towns that doesn't have a project, that they're just well, they're covered under Head Start, but they are served by ESU 15.
Yeah, yeah. And we've got every community tagged with a recruiter, but it's on the service side that is the non-project area. That's a challenging area that we try and make improvements every year, but as I mentioned, there's challenges in regards to staff that can meet the needs of the families that are residing in those particular areas.
All right, thank you.
I have a question on that, veering kind of on the same, this is Cynthia, on that same page. We're having a heck of a time also finding applicants and people who would be interested in the Southeast area. And specifically also working with our OSY, but we have not had a service provider, and we've kind of divided and conquered to not have that gap to our families in that area.
Okay.
So I'm curious to how that is approached with the non-project, and if we could do something similar.
We do,
not necessarily as a state initiative, but how, I guess, where are your non-project service providers located? Like, where is their home base?
one resides in Lexington, and Azucena serves families that are south of I-80. And then
Rosara is.
I was saying Azucena, and I knew that wasn't right. And then Rosara is north of I-80. And Jamie, off tell me, does she reside in Ord?
She's in Ord.
She's in Ord, yes. And so that we take a look at that. We take a look at the number, and first and foremost, like anywhere else, which priority for service, is priority to receive those services. Also stay real connected to the schools or other communities, resources that are available. And those services, they may provide tutoring in the school district, but they also may serve as far as some support services as well.
Right, we kind of try to divide our time between the schools, and when they are in the schools, then they can't easily just drop and get away and at a drop of a hat. So then we provide some time for family and support services, and so it is a challenge to balance. And again, just as rural areas are, we have lots of mileage between school districts and families, and so it's hard to cover everything all the time, especially at a drop of a hat. So and we have school districts that have requested some of our service, and we aren't able to cover everything with just 2 people.
That's a good question too, Cynthia, because it's one of those things, taking a look at, and just see what improvements could be made to increase the services to, I'm sure, to OSY, but all age groups really in certain areas. So it's, you know, at the state level, taking a look at that and looking to see what changes, or I'm going to call them improvements, can be made to increase the number of students that are served. And Jamie had mentioned too, because I think of that when we take a look at the cost on an annual basis for mileage, could it, which is high, is it possible to cut down that mileage and actually hire other folks? But, you know, we flip that coin, just as you have shared in the Southeast region of the ES27 project. You know, you just can't find folks, you know, to fill that position, even if you have the funding, you know, to find the people to meet the needs of the family. So it's one of those challenges, but it's one that we continually look at, you know, for solutions.
Yeah, it is pretty rural. When you get off the interstate and you head, especially north or way south, there's lots of rural areas there. And so that takes time to drive to those places and serve those families and, you know, come back. So there's lots of road time. So
I would like to add, though, we do have a project going on. We've been doing some interstate coordination with Kansas. And in that Southwest area, that Kansas has, one of their regional projects is not too far from the border, the Kansas-Nebraska border. So we've been working with them in regards to a couple of recruiters that are recruiting in Nebraska in the communities, you know, that are near the border in the Southwest region. So in getting some really good results from that as well. So appreciate Kansas helping us out, but in the same time, you know, at any time that could flip, and that the Nebraska maps support Kansas as well in that area. And we've also had conversation, but nothing has been implemented yet with Colorado. So in looking at those bordering states, how we can help with recruiting or providing services. Instead of someone driving an hour and a half when they're only 20 minutes away, that makes sense. So, you know, I never thought about it, but maybe over in that southeast corner, maybe.
Would there be possible conversation with Iowa? I know that like our most populated areas are right on the border with Iowa. So Nebraska City and Plattsmouth are where we have the most of our southeast students.
We most definitely could. So yeah, if let's have a conversation sometime and know what those communities are where that we need to continue focus on, and then we can certainly have conversation with the Iowa migrant program too, and see what we can work out there. The nice part is that Kansas, Colorado, and Iowa all belong to, we're all members of the Identification Recruitment Consortium. Plus, we are all part of the OSY Consortium. So sometimes when you get into funding, some different things of that sort, as that plan develops, it's nice that we're able to use some of those consortium funds to carry out different activities. Good question. Good comments. Do the projects feel, do you have enough resources, or have you had time? I know we've done some webinars on the OSY and the IRC website. If you've had a chance to review those and the materials that are available. In regards to OSY, the most recent would be the mental health.
Yes.
And so, you know, just if you've been able to check out those resources, or just as a reminder too, they've really got some good materials to support our OSY population.
Sue, this is Rosie. Can you hear me?
I can, Rosie. Hello, hello.
How are you?
Good.
Good, good. Yeah, I was just really, because I've been working with students that are pretty much recovering. They're kind of like a recovery program, but they're students that are not traditional. They've been transitioned from the regular high school setting into a alternative setting where what they do is they just pretty much do all their work in front of a computer, and they work with OSY, and so they're just doing their quizzes and their tests and compositions and things like that. But I have found that this is already a second student that I am working with and is ready to probably graduate in the next couple of months. But what I have found is that OSY has a real specific programs and a real specific focus. Like, for example, I'm working with students mostly in their English because their grammar and their spelling and things like that are kind of, not all that good. So as I've been working with these students, I mean, I'm just pretty much seeing what OSY, and they have to focus on what, they're quizzing on or they're testing on, but like things like adjective clauses and declarative sentences, imperative sentences, exclamatory sentences, interrogatory sentences, like sentence types, adverb clauses, simple subjects and complete subjects and predicates and, things of that nature. So so again, it's real specific to OSY. And so I don't know if the GoSoci materials are really, really helpful, but I'm just thinking about maybe obtaining materials that are specific to, OSY.
Yes, yeah.
Because it's really hard to, tutor, because what you have to do on the spot is research. Oh my goodness, let me look up what an adverb. Let me look up what an adverb clause is. Okay, let me look at example. You know what I mean? It's like they catch you in the spot, or maybe I'm just not competent enough to be tutoring. So I don't know.
I was thinking the same thing when you were mentioning a few of those. I grew up in high school and I really liked English, but it's been too long ago.
Yeah, I mean, if your student was to ask you, "Oh, give me an example of an adjective clause," but I mean, we do it, and I mean, it's a little bit more time consuming to be able to do a little bit of research on that information. And sometimes OSY does have videos with examples and things like that. So we've been able to, to work through it, but it just kind of, I think it's different from the GoSoci materials.
Yes, and as it would be. I wonder if, as a suggestion, if working with that particular high school, if they would loan you a book that has, would provide you information on those specific areas that student is studying,
Yeah, that's a good idea. That is a very good idea.
I'm going way back again, but in tutoring high school students, when I was at the local level, that's what I did. I used the textbook that they used.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a couple grades lower because they're just learning at a different time, but that's very helpful.
That's a great idea. I think I will turn to, the schools and mostly Reconnect. We have a really good relationship with Reconnect. And so, yeah, that's a great idea.
Good.
I found that also that OSYs are very time consuming. When you're a recruiter, and you're trying to recruit, it's a very difficult thing to do. They need a lot of attention. Like my last, My last student did, the one that just graduated, but you know, she was just needed a lot of attention.
Yeah.
So, but it was worth it. It was worth it because in the end she graduated, and
Yeah.
you know, it was a great feeling, but some don't require as much attention, but really you have to follow up, you have to text, you have to call them, you have to, you know, follow up with their teachers or schools to see how they're doing. And they drop in and they drop out and they come back, and you know, they have tragedies, and then they, you know, lift themselves up and they decide to go back to school. But the most difficult task is, you know, to get the ones that are out there that don't want to participate in any kind of educational program. Those are the tough ones to reach.
Yeah. You know, they don't have the confidence in themselves, or like you said, there's 101 reasons, but
yeah, and it's really sad.
Yeah, but once you can build that relationship, and I know that Kiowa explained at one time in regards to even the OSY and, you know, laying out a plan, and it was, you know, we got to get you back in school, we got to get you in GED, and it's things that we want for them, but taking the time to visit with them and build that relationship and find out where they are, because in re-enrolling in school may, you know, that they might do that a year, but at the time that you meet there may be some other barriers that can be removed so they can re-enroll in school or GED or some type of career training.
Yes.
You're right, there's other obstacles that need to be removed before you get to a long-term goal.
Yes.
Sue, this is Marnie.
Marnie?
Hi. We have just started using Moby Max with some of our OSYs. We did the OSY goal setting sheet, and a lot of them said that they wanted to learn English language skills. And so through Moby Max, we were able to give them a placement test to find out what areas they were struggling in English. And then based on that placement test, we are able to assign lessons to them. So I can do all of that on my computer, and then Bari takes iPads and a MiFi to the families' homes, and then gives the student an iPad to work off of for the lesson. And if they're struggling with reading, then Bari's there to translate that information for them.
That's awesome. I think one of our last webinars too was from MiraCore, and it, which is another consortium, and it had lots of reading lessons, and hope you've had a chance to take a look at that, or that's another good resource for you as well.
So this is Lilia again.
Hi, Lilia.
Hey. Hey, me and Aida want to mention also English on Minutes. That it has been helpful for the OSYs, especially in our rural areas where they don't have the access to a community college to learn English. It feels really good when you do a second visit and you see that the books are out and they are studying and they are learning, you know, like frequent phrases, just the basic English. So we got a lot of good comments from the OSYs in regards to the English and Minutes. They say that it's really useful and it's really easy to comprehend and to learn it. So it's just something that I don't know if we want to keep in mind to continue to buy these programs and maybe have somebody follow up like in a couple of weeks after they start studying that, so we can use that as a as a tool.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Lilia. There's quite a few people that do use that resource. And I just learned the other day, and they can download, they can access those lessons. If they have a smartphone, they can download those materials off the OSY project or OSY consortium off of their website. And then someone mentioned if they don't have internet access, they don't have Wi-Fi access, another option is that they can use an MP3 player. And I know Benjamin has downloaded the lessons on that MP3 player for many of you. And then I just learned a couple weeks ago that I'm not the technology person, but I almost think of it as like a little SM card that you can insert in your into your phone, and it downloads all those lessons. So they provided lots of different ways to access those lessons. And actually, I use it in the car as well with my driving time. So the ones from the GoSoci, it's in English and Spanish. And so that's what I do with some of my driving time. Too bad I didn't start that 14 years ago. I probably would be bilingual by now. Does anybody else have any final comments or questions, suggestions in regards to OSY? While you're thinking about that for a moment, I'll just want to thank everybody for sharing. By doing so, we all learn, or provides us different ways of looking at things, or new tips, different resources that we may have not used.
Sue, I was wondering if there was any way that we could, be able to access any funds for, like, what I do a lot with my students is I take them out to lunch, but I know that, it's not with our money, the project's money, but just wondering if there's any way that, because I think traditionally it's kind of a bonding thing.
Sure.
And it's out of that restrictive classroom, or out of that restrictive computer lab that we're always meeting in. But I'm just wondering if in the future there could be like something set aside for just at least a meal or coffee for an OSY every once in a while.
Yeah.
But I know it's probably not going to happen. But I just thought I'd throw that in.
I know, that's a tough one. And even, I'm going to say for the last, I don't know, probably 5 years, it's not considered an allowable expense.
Yeah.
And even, we used to provide food at all our meetings, and in order to do that, in order to use it for the purpose that you've mentioned, or even for professional training, is it's just not allowable, not just in migrant, but for all programs. So
for all federal programs, especially.
Yeah. So it's
I just thought I'd try.
I know. I wish I could. I wish we could too. The other part is in providing that, and we do, especially for OSY families. Like I mentioned, they come in late at night, and sometimes those folks haven't eaten for a day or 2 days, and consider that a high nutrition health need. And that migrant staff will, may use migrant dollars to provide that for them, because it's, justifiable that it's a health risk or nutrition risk.
Yeah.
But as so many of us do, because our hearts bleed for the population that we serve, that we do, like you said, take them out for a cup of coffee, or, buy them a lunch. But I'm sorry to say at this particular time, I can't see where that would be an allowable expense.
Yeah, and I could see that. And then, like in when we have state packs, I routinely buy the parent lunch because it's just a kind of cultural. It's a cultural thing, right?
It is
a traditional thing. And then, and we, provide lunches for students, but we can't even count that as a migrant service, right?
Yeah.
Like a nutrition, because if you purchase it and it's not with migrant funds, you can't even count it as a migrant incentive.
No, and as far as state PAC, you're required to have those meetings, but as it says in the guidance and also allowable expenses, is that you can serve a light refreshment. That's up to some discussion. So if you're having a parent advisory council meeting, you can serve light refreshments.
Oh, okay.
But that's a little different, and they do provide us some flexibility with that. And
but that's an advisory, right? It's not the
that's
PAC.
correct. Yeah. And if you want to review that, it is in the non-regulatory guidance, in the parent involvement section.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, everybody, I have to wrap it up. I've got another group waiting for this room, but I really appreciate everybody sharing. Thank you for serving the OSY, and thanks for reviewing with all of us today in regards to OSY. If you have any suggestions, later, shoot me an email, and Cynthia, I'll get back to you about the Southeast. And I'll get the PowerPoint to everybody as well.
Oh, great, great.
Okay. All right, well, enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yes, you too.
No.
Bye.
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 But I have the microphone off. Bye. Yeah.
Bye.
Hey, Sue. Oh.